Welcome to the Fire Family Collective podcast, the show dedicated to supporting the unsung heroes of the fire service, the wives, partners, and families who hold down the fort while their firefighters serve. Hello, welcome to the Fire Family Collective podcast. I am Amanda, and I am super thrilled to be sitting down today with Jamie. She is in San Diego, so we're both beach babes, and the weather has been amazing here. It's like summer in February, whenever this ends up airing, but I'm just so thankful. I'm sitting here looking at the sunshine. How are you today, Jamie?
I'm doing well too. We don't have as much sun today, but it's still nice. No snow.
Yes, exactly. I know. I don't know what seasons are. So sorry for everyone else who's experiencing seasons. My sister said it was like 6 degrees in New York. So it's bathing suit weather here. Um, anyways, Jamie is amazing. She has a full family, a full career, a firefighter partner. So Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Jamie, and she said I live in San Diego, California. I am the owner of a business called Create by the Sea, and I specialize in remodeling and helping people build their homes from the ground up or remodel. And I usually do a lot of kitchens as well. And I run the whole business myself at this time. And then I'm married to my husband, who's a firefighter engineer. In San Diego, we have 4 on our trucks. He's the driver, but he's also a paramedic. And we have 3 girls. So we have Ellie, who's 13, and Shelby, who's almost 9, and Riley, who's our youngest, who's 5. And I'm their full-time caretaker as well. So they're here. They're off at school, but they're here, and I'm the one in charge.
Yeah, you are doing it all, literally. And I'm sure there's plenty of activities. They have their things that they're interested in too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ellie's our swimmer. She swims a lot, like 10, 15 hours a week. So
Wow.
I'm swim practice mom. Yeah. And then Shelby's our karate girl. And Riley right now just tags along because we're not quite sure where she's going to fit in with all that yet.
She's checking it out what older sisters are doing, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
She's in kindergarten, so just letting her feel her way out.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love that you mentioned is that you wanted to be on the podcast and share and connect with this community. So can you tell me a little bit, why you were drawn to be on this platform and share your voice with us?
Sure. So, I've been a part of the fire community since I've been with my husband. We met here in San Diego. We're both from other parts of the country, and he became a medic on the ambulance, and the ambulances here are stationed in the fire stations. They're not contracted with they're contracted with the fire stations, but they are not employees of San Diego Fire. So he was a medic for 8 or 9 years before he became a firefighter. It took us a long time for him to get on the department. That was probably one of our challenging points of our marriage, is just like, is this what we really want? Because it took a long time. Like, there were a lot of San Diego has their own hiring process, and for a while it was, we're not hiring you unless you're a medic. And then they did brownouts, which is because the city couldn't afford to hire anyone. And then when they came back, they said, we're not hiring medics, but he went to medic school. And so like we had to just wait and wait. And finally he got hired when Ellie, who's our oldest, was 2. Um and so I've been around the fire and in lifestyle, I guess, for a long time. And we even rode the fire engine to our wedding. Like,
Wow.
even though he wasn't a firefighter, like they took us to our reception, and like we just felt part of that community. And I remember like wanting so badly to be a part of the family dynamic, because like you'd walk in and like it was just cool, like especially in our double houses where there's 8 firefighters, and then the box was just 2 more, so there's a lot of people there, and just being excited about that. But by the time my husband got hired, the dynamic here in San Diego just started shifting, and I think it was a few things. One was the city was training a lot of guys, and then we'd lose them because we weren't paying them enough. And so we'd lose the guys to other cities, or it was because they couldn't financially afford to live in San Diego any longer. I have several firefighter like families that don't live here. They live in Idaho. They live in Arizona. We have one on my husband's station that lives in North Shore, Hawaii, and they come and commute in, and they work their hours, and then they go back home. And so to create community is difficult because their loved ones aren't here. And so, we try, we try our best, but it's just not always easy. And so we had a wives type page, Facebook page but it was just so much division between people. And so I was just really searching for that community piece that I had hoped we were going to get from the get go, and be able to ask questions that were just really hard. Like, you know, um, what do you do with your kids if your husband gets mandoed? Like, what are you doing? Or during COVID, like, how are you guys handling this when they come home? What are you doing? Are you stripping down? Like all those questions, looking for help in that, and it just wasn't coming. And so that's when I had turned to podcast and found Dear Chief at the time, and just was like, oh, finally, there's like other people speaking out about how hard this life really is. And I think it's also hard because people will be like, but you wanted that life. Like, why are you complaining about it if you wanted that life? And I was like, you're right. I did want, I did want this life. Like, I do want this life, but I also want to be able to talk about that. Like, it's hard. There's hard parts to it. There's parts that are just, they're good, but there's parts that are hard. And I just want other people who understand that. And so I was looking for that. And then Audra, who's one of the ladies that does Dear Chief, was like, go check out this collective. You'll really like it. And so then I found you guys, and I was like, wow, like there's finally some, wives who really want to like know each other and create a community where it doesn't matter if you're in the same city. I mean, it could be cool, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay,
So,
lots of things going on there. So, moment to pause. Thank you, dear Chiefs, Audra and Chelsea, for connecting fire families across the nation. You ladies paved the way years ago for connection for our community. So, thank you to both of you. And I really feel like what you said is something familiar that a lot of other partners can agree with, and feels like they're not alone, whether they don't within their own fire department have that connection and they're seeking it, or they had it and it looks different now. I think that's really relatable, and it can be scary to reach out outside of your own fire department, but also it's kind of exciting because sometimes you want a different voice. Like you said, you want to be able to say, how are you handling this mandate for yourself? Because even after almost 20 years, you still feel disappointment yourself as a partner. And then you have to turn around and tell the girls, plans changed. We need to be flexible as a family. I'm feeling disappointed. I can relate to how you're feeling. Tell me how you're feeling. And so to be able to have this Fire Family Collective space where we can come and share those moments just to get it off of our chest, but to also maybe get different insight, is really nice to have that. And I hope that people listening can know that even veteran firefighter partners are experiencing these things. It's not something unfamiliar to us, whether we experienced it 20 years ago or we're experiencing it now again or for the first time. And to have this space where you could be vulnerable and wrapped up in warm hugs and sit with the yuck and just, yep, this is hard, but then also like I'm here to talk about it with you, Jamie. Like, let's be vulnerable and real and not just end the conversation at rub some dirt on it, get over it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of mentality of firefighters sometimes. Like, oh, that happened, it's over, But is it really over? It's it might be for me. I'm in a different phase of life than someone who has a newborn and a toddler at their feet. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be willing to tell you how I did it. How
Right.
did you run a business and have a toddler and a baby? And sure, you could be on the East Coast or the Midwest, and it's different a little bit, but we could still have that community that we're looking for,
Yeah,
the
and that's
support.
it. Is it's not like you're not waving a magic wand and saying like, Jamie, I'm here to fix this. Amanda, your, fire wife problems are all going to be gone. No, you're not doing that. But you're saying, I see you. I've been in similar shoes as you, and here are some things that might be supportive if you find yourself in this similar situation again. And also, you can send me a text and just say, like, hey, Jamie, it happened again, and I'm really upset, but I handled it this way this time, and things were a lot better. Like, whatever that looks like. And to know that we have those other women who get it, it makes such a difference. I know for me, that was one of the things I really struggled with having my first child was going to like the stereotypical moms group. And all of the moms in the moms group, there's like 20 of them, their husbands came home every day. And so the resentment I had as a first time mom with a newborn, I mean, you probably could see like smoke coming out of my head. I could not handle being around these women. And it had nothing to do with them. It was an Amanda problem. I resented the fact that my husband did not come home every day. And I was struggling and I could not be a part of that mom's group. I needed a group like this where I could say, as a new mom with my, partner, he got 2 weeks home when I had a newborn. We lived hundreds of miles away from family at the time. I was on an island by myself. And to have had a group like this where I could have leaned into and said, I want a mom's group, maybe how do I go back to that group and not feel horrible, and mad at every single woman in that room. Like, I don't want to feel this way. And I also was going to therapy, but I just couldn't pull my shit together. I couldn't go back. I made
I
one friend.
remember I had an experience similar. I remember when my oldest went to school and I had Shelby in a carrier, and I remember the moms walking out of kindergarten and looking at them going to work and being like, I just like barely got out of bed. Like, I'm barely functioning. How are you like polished and put together and like going to work right now? Like, there's just like, and then my mom gave me a quote that everything happens at its appointed hour, but I was still just like, boggled. Like, how is she so put together? I barely got, a waffle shoved down her throat to go to school. Like, I'm failing, as a mom. And then last year, when Riley finally went to preschool, like half day, I walked out and I was fully dressed and I was ready to go meet a client. And I was like, and I literally walked past a mom who was carrying her baby and her toddler. And she looked at me and I was just like, it's just a moment of time. Like, you'll get there. Like, but
Yes.
it was this full circle realization of like, look how far you came. It feels like forever, but it's still possible. Like, you'll
Yes.
get there.
In the moment, like it feels daunting and you feel like 1 year of 365 feels like 3,000 days. And I was the same way. I would look at some of my firewife mom friends in outfits, right? And I was like, I am still disgusting in the shirt I wore last night, and I just put on leggings. I actually got out of my pajama bottoms. I barely brushed my teeth, probably didn't brush my hair, and I couldn't. I just remember telling John, "How does she get dressed? I don't understand." And he was, and his like simple answer was like, well, you put on clothes, like you could also put on those clothes. And I was just like, I could not wrap my head around not putting on leggings and putting on jeans and like a different shirt. The same thing. It took me years to be able to have the capacity to put on a different top and not leggings, which I still do wear leggings and like oversized t-shirts and stuff all the time, but I could not. That was one of the most mind-blowing things to me. It wasn't even makeup or doing your hair. It was just the simple fact of the outfit, let alone, like you said, having the time to go the next step of styling your hair or anything. And most of the time, my kids still don't eat breakfast, and they're 6 and almost 5. Like mornings are very slow for us. It's very hard. So very
I
relatable.
just tell myself that those women's sinks full of dishes. Like she
Yeah.
might look really good together, but her sink at home is full of dishes, okay? Like that's what I
Yes.
tell myself because I'm like, there's something that I had to give. She looks great, I look great, but my sink is full of dirty dishes right now.
That
There's
is
a giant pile
hilarious.
of laundry,
Yes.
right?
Yes, we all have our secrets. What is your secret? We want to know. Okay, so if you're listening to this episode, is your sink full of dishes? Is there laundry that's so this reminds me, one of my friends told me like the secret for her with laundry is she no longer folds the clothes for the kids. So they each have their own baskets. And so when the laundry gets done, they need to deal with their own basket of laundry. And I'm like, that is genius. We're not completely there yet, but I want to get my way there.
Yeah, my kids fold their own laundry.
That's
Unless
amazing.
dad's home. If dad's home, he'll help them. And they'll be like, Dad's here. He's just gonna help me. Like that's one of his tasks he'll do with them. But I'm like, nope, you wore it. And sometimes they change their clothes like 3 times. Like, you didn't have to do that. So this is why you have all this laundry to do.
Exactly. I exactly. My kids are the same way. And my sister will be like, "Well, you change your clothes multiple times." And I'm like, "Okay, but I worked out. Like it's different." And it's just the whole thing, but we'll get there. So if you're listening to this and you have secrets for your laundry or dishes and getting actual clothes on, share with us. We'll see if anything can stick. Um, I love that. Yeah. I think being able to be in a community like this who gets it and figures things out and navigates another mandate or an additional swim practice because a competition is coming up. Like you said, you have this incredible business you've built from the ground up at the same time that your husband was getting into the fire department and you had a young daughter. How do you manage all of that?
Well, the first thing that just popped in my head was I don't want you to think that there wasn't resentment because there was. Like, you get to go to the station and hang out and watch movies when you don't and play game. He's at a beach station, so he gets to run on the beach, and I'm over here, and there's still like a ton of resentment. But we finally reached a point where I needed him to understand that what made me feel good about myself was my business. Like, I'm a good mom, but I feel fulfilled when I can walk into something that I envisioned and it's real. Like, I can walk into your house and tell you your kitchen belongs in the other corner, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And then, on those last days, walking in and actually seeing what I could vision in my head, and that makes me feel good. That makes me excited to be alive, and I think it translates to my kids in a way because they see a mom who's willing to do what she wants rather than just be at home. And I'm not saying that being at home is wrong because if that's where you're meant to be, that's where you're meant to be. But for me, it wasn't. Like I just was like, "Ugh, she has to go to work and I have to be here." And so creating my own entity to be willing to be able to fulfill that feeling for myself is really where it came from. More so than even money, because at the time we didn't necessarily have 3 children and live in San Diego at the height of its expense. But, I just wanted to feel like I was contributing how I contribute. And so that's really that was important to me. And with that came a lot of like headbutting. Like it just did. Like we were, figuring out like, okay, yeah, you're tired, but like I just did the kids for 3 days. I need a break. I need to do this. This client's waiting for me. Like you got to take them. Okay, but you need a nap. Can you please nap with them? And figuring out those little schedule details that make our life work, and also learning what doesn't, because I think that's the biggest thing is like, okay, and we got to a point where we needed outside help with like just therapy and really learning how to communicate on the same level differently. I don't know if that makes any sense. So in San Diego, we have our department offers free therapy. So we have a whole therapy division that like any family member can go to. So like my teenager right now is going through stuff. She has her own therapist that we
Wow.
don't pay for. Um, which is awesome. And so we found out about it, and I remember we were both like, do we really have to do this? Because we both just had stigmas around therapists. But we walked in and we knew we needed to go, and we sat down, and this lady, if we can get her on this podcast, it would be amazing because she's really good. And so I told her everything. I like spewed out my side of the story, and he was just like, yeah, she'll never be happy. That's probably what my husband said at the time. And she goes, okay, I want you to understand something. And this really helped us. So she said, your husband, or your wife, sorry, your wife, he's talking to my husband, your wife controls a freeway. So she's like, think of like the busiest freeway, and she's in charge of every car that's on that freeway. Hers is green, and Ellie's is blue, and Shelby's is purple, and her business is one. And like they're just all going down this freeway, like, you can really visualize it. Then she's controlling. Ellie's got swim practice. She has to get off on this exit. Oh, we got to stop at the grocery store or whatever. She's just got full control because you are gone at work. And so she's got these cars moving, and sometimes they slow down, but they're still moving. And I was like, okay, where's she going with this, right? And then she's like, and then here comes the call. It's a 911, and you're coming home from work. And so you're the big red shiny fire truck that just like pulls in the middle of the freeway and stops because you're trying to take care of an accident or whatever. But what happens? And she's like, all the cars are diverted. All the cars slow down. All the cars move over. Everything is now shuffled because you just sat your big red fire truck in the middle of the freeway. And she looks at him and she goes, that is your wife's life. She's like, she's got all these things going on. And then you come home from work and you are like, they missed you and you're cool because you're red and you're fast. But at the same time, like, you just disrupted everything. And so you've got to learn how you're going to merge in and not push them all out of the way. And I was just like, thank you. Because we left that day and I was just like, I felt seen. Like, I felt for the first time, like, okay, I could never have come up with that analogy because I'm not a therapist, right? That's not my job. But it was so what I needed to hear. And I still think about it even now. Like, okay, he's coming home and he's going to merge into this. And, what was his day like? And so now we're better. Like, tell me ahead of time if you're coming home and you're super tired and the whole day you're going to sleep. Because then I just set my expectations up. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, he's going to do the laundry and the dishes because he's just not going to. He's going to sleep all day. And then sometimes I'll say, I know you want to sleep all day, but I really need this. And so he has that ahead of time rather than like coming in and getting me hot. And then I'm not sympathetic to him. And then we're just both mad at each other when we don't want to be mad at each other because we haven't seen each other for, however long it's been. And so, yeah, I'm an advocate for therapists because we all have what we're good at, and it's become experts at, but they're trained. Like, you go to the dentist to have your teeth fixed, you go to the therapist because you need to think better or be clear.
Yeah, I am really grateful we went there. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. There's so many things to unpack. I have my notes I was writing down over here. So first off, amazing that, the department that you're at offers additional, therapy and mental health supports, like huge. And I'm a huge advocate, very grateful for that. So kudos for that. And that you are leaning into them and seeing the need that your family has. And like you said, it is a tool, a resource for us to help support us. Our life is very unique. I do not know how to properly clean my teeth, as you said, as a dental hygienist. I'm the dentist, so I go and have that service on my teeth. Using therapy is another service to give me the tools I need in the office to support me there, but then hopefully also at home to better communicate with my partner, better communicate with my community, my children. And I'm glad that your daughter is seeing you and your spouse lead the way in that it's not something to be shameful of. It is something to lean into and benefit from. So that's amazing. The analogy that you used with the freeway and the big shiny red fire engine, reintegration is very hard. And that is something that we talk about in the collective a lot, and how to navigate that as a partner, and partners with children or partners with animals are, it looks different for each of us at home, and it's not easy. And like you said, getting a heads up from your partner, sending that text like, I know that Ellie has swim today and you have an appointment with this client, but I'm going to need a 2-hour nap. And then I know I'm going to help with dishes and laundry. Being able to have that open communication and clearly set the expectation and also meet your needs it's really hard. And it's not something we just, like you and I talked about, I think before we started the recording, like I signed up for this. I didn't really know what I was signing up for. So don't come at me with that. And I don't know the needs of my children. I don't know the evolution of the fire department, all these things. So to practice these communication skills and to take the time to ask each other what we need and to try to make sure we can meet those needs and speak each other's love language and get the support from therapy that we need and pour into our own cups. Again, to go back to, kind of what started this conversation with you pouring into yourself. You can't be the best version of Jamie if you feel like there's a giant gaping hole, and you pursuing your career was important to you. And because you're able to fill your cup, you can show up for your family.
Yeah, and I would also encourage people to ask, because the guys know, or your spouse, I guess, knows what the department offers, but I didn't. Like, I didn't even know we had it until I was like, this is not a choice, and we were looking at different avenues, and then there were other things. So the department has, and I think I don't know, but like, even this past week, I learned that we have peer support. I didn't, I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't. I knew the guys had peer support, but then they're like, my husband was like, well, you can have peer support. And I was like, what do you mean I can have peer support? What does that look like? Who is it? Like, how does that work? And so there's probably different things in your department that you might not even know, resources that you don't even know are there because you don't think to ask. I really wanted to, within San Diego, like, have not I got worried because, like, when he put on the badge to become a firefighter, I didn't know what I was accepting. Like, I had no idea. I was just excited that he got to put it on, and that we didn't have to do the academy anymore. But, like, if someone had pulled me aside at some time and been like, hey, when you're ready to do this, maybe it's have kids or like buy a house or, decide on an area to live or whatever, give me a call, like, let's talk, because I've done it before and it's different. And so that's also part of that community where I was just like, I wish when, like, even in the academy, I want, if someone had said, Jamie, you are not going to see your husband for this amount of time because he's going to be so focused and drained, it would have probably made my life so much easier. And I think people are apprehensive to share because they don't want to be like a know-it-all, but I would have rather had someone be a know-it-all and taken from them what they were willing to share at my own, grain of sand of what I needed versus on the back end be wishing that someone was like, oh yeah, I had to do that too, and find out later because it's just so much easier. And so I'm for like a wives or spouse class when they get out of the academies because I think I think it's important, but I have yet to have that come to fruition, if you will.
Okay, so that's something that is a huge mission of mine personally, Amanda. I completely relate, and I hope that as people listen to this in different departments, if you have capacity, you hear this message and you start something, even if it's small, and you're inspired because it can be overwhelming to start. And I think that if you know, Jamie in San Diego and Amanda in Ventura, if we can lock arms with our new partners that start, it's huge because I remember what it was like to sit at that table at family orientation and be terrified as a little baby 25-year-old, hundreds of miles away from my family. Like, what am I doing? I just left a job I love at the beach to chase a firefighter after being together for 6 years, I think, at that point. And they're telling me all these crazy things. And I'm basically crapping myself. Like, what did I get myself into? And I don't have anyone to look up to and hold my hand and mentor me. So I locked arms with the women in the group. There was like 30 new hires. So it was nice. We had such a big group because that department was similar to San Diego in size. And it just was a bigger pool of people to try to connect with. But there wasn't this type of like mentorship program, which I'm hoping we can bring to the Fire Family Collective, is have this group of women who are a little bit ahead of us and we can reach out to and ask those questions and not feel shame or whatever emotions might come up, to just be like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're busy boss babe. You've built an incredible business. You've supported your husband's dreams of becoming a first responder. You're raising 3 incredible daughters. You're showing them the world. Like, we're not here to mess around. So I think that, anyone listening to this, just lock arms with someone in your department, get into the Fire Family Collective, reach out to someone, post in the community. We want to hear what you're going through. We want to connect with you. We want you to have your voice be heard and for you to not feel alone and know the resources. Like Jamie said too, your specific department probably offers things that you might not even know. So figuring out those things as well and sharing with the other partners is huge. When you find something out, spread the word.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it makes me think about volunteer firefighters too. I don't know anything about that. Like, I don't know anything, but I'm sure there's others that do. And I can't imagine that like you're sleeping at home and then he leaves. Like, I just think about them sometimes and like listening to the radio and stuff for calls. And that's so unique to that. But at the same time, like, you're not the only one. And if anything, you can have like, if you want to have your own business and you want to have kids and you still have a fire spouse, it is possible. It is. You have to work for it. It's not, I'm not going to tell you it was ever like totally easy because it's still not. And there's tons of like messy stuff. Like, there just is. But I think that that's just part of life. Even if I was a school teacher or, working some kind of other kind of job, there's going to be challenge that comes
Yeah,
with it. But
we
it's possible. It is possible.
we all have 24 hours in the day, but it is not the same 24 hours in the day. And depending on the season of life you're in, if you're in a business phase, if you're in a newborn phase, if you're in a studying for a promotion phase, if you're in a health medical crisis, it looks different. And so I think sometimes even in the fire family, we can compare and, be like, why does it look so easy for Jamie?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, COVID's a good one for that in our family because my business was considered essential. So I didn't shut down. Like I wasn't home. I was out. He was gone to work. And so like just navigating those things too, I think having a community around it is really helpful because we didn't know what we were doing at the time anyway. And I anticipate that that will happen again. I mean, last year when we had the LA fires, like we didn't know what was going on, but we knew that we were sending all of these reserves and people there, and was it going to come here? And like, and our kids are watching it on the news, and so to like even like hear from other wives that like we're safe or like we're doing good or we need help or whatever it might be, you know, was essential at that time. And I think that having that rally in that community and it is important. And also like I go back to like just so you don't feel alone. Like you don't feel like you're the only one going through it because you're not.
Yeah.
You're just not.
I feel like we've talked about so many meaningful things in this time together. I hope that anyone listening, if any of this resonates to you, Jamie and I would love to see you in Fire Family Collective, our private community. You are safe and seen. You are not alone. We have social media, but we also have our own private space. And it is just so intimate and it's really special to just have that for us. So I'm ready to wrap it up. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that's it. I'm just excited to be here and be a part of the community to support and also receive support too. I've found that even recently I reached out and people replied, and they don't have to, but they want to because they just have heart. We all do. That's part of, I think, being a fire spouse.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your heart, being vulnerable. And we look forward to seeing you more in Fire Family Collective. Thank you.
Thank you.